In this week's readings from chapter 2 to chapter 27, Barbara continues to talk about Angel's continued efforts at sustainability and goes in to discuss how he has collaborated with Miguel in bringing farm-raised fish into his restaurant, more specifically mullet, which is a fish that is not typically sought after, versus the bass that he was using previously. He continues to go on into more specifics about how Angel plans to use this fish and how this is a more sustainable option just based on the way that these fish are raised and their place within the entire ecosystem per se. Furthermore, this idea is then adopted by chefs throughout the country, and soon enough, Rod Mitchell is importing mullet to different places and throughout New York, and this is becoming kind of a trending method. Barbara then goes into talk about Klaus and Mary Howell's farm, which kind of ties into the same idea how Angel's collaboration with fish farming kind of expanded, because he goes on to talk about how Klaus and Mary Howell's sustainability practices and their organic farm was adopted by people that also lived locally and had farms in their surrounding area, as they saw that they were having positive progress when they changed their methods and what they were using in the past. I feel like this also ties in a lot with what we had talked about previously and how industrialization has changed our agriculture so much, and I think this is a good example about how different methods and how people try different means of cultivating crops and how they can be easily adoptable by other people and how it can become such a widely used thing. Furthermore, he goes in to talk about Glenn's mother and the rice that she was brought up with in Southern culture. He goes into more detail about how he has made all these efforts to try all these foods and send them to his mother, and she says they're just not the same as what she had grown up with, in an effort to kind of create a Southern cuisine that an older generation of people just can no longer find. And a lot of this is based on the fact that there has been so many changes in the way that we grow and cultivate our food here, that this has changed the entirety of the flavor profile of foods. And I feel like this was really connected in a lot of the readings that we had in addition to the book this week. One in specific was the article of Climate Change in Agriculture, A Perfect Storm in Farm Country. This goes on to talk about how there is so many different factors that feed into our agricultural system and how much climate change is affecting all areas of that food system. More specifically, one of the things, again, that ties into that statement about the rice production has to do with the soil degradation, and how much of an effect that has really had on all of our foods just over the past couple of decades. I think the biggest takeaway I had this week happened to be how much different areas of the agriculture system as a whole is affected by climate change. I really feel like I didn't have a lot of background information, specifically about like greenhouse gases and how it affects the entirety of our system and how many different facets feed into that. I was also really surprised to read about how the breakdown of greenhouse gases is kind of broken down and where the highest area of those gases tend to come from.